Many of you requested that I would make a video detailing how I edit my drone videos from start to finish. Well, look no further, because this is it. So we have a lot of stuff to cover for this video, so let's go right into it after you subscribe. That's right, because I looked at the stats for this channel, and the amount of you that are watching this that are not subscribed is pretty substantial, and that's kind of sad. So it's free, just drop a like and subscribe. It's nice and easy, just do it down below, and we'll move on to the rest of the video now. Subscribe. Also, I know my hair is bad, we're just gonna roll with it for now, so yeah, let's get right into it. So for this video, I edited it in Davinci Resolve 15. You can get it for free on Blackmagic Design's website, and there is Davinci Resolve 16 now, but I never saw the need to upgrade it. I'm also kind of lazy, didn't upgrade it, so they're the exact same thing. If you have Davinci Resolve 16, these still apply. And if you don't have Davinci Resolve, let's just say you're a Premiere user, the techniques also can be applied. However, the actual applications are a bit different, but this is step by step going through Davinci Resolve rather than going through Premiere Pro, because I use Davinci Resolve for my videos, and it has a bit of a learning curve, but I hope to teach you all about that today. So first things first, there are a few things about Davinci Resolve that you must understand. Control S is save. You're going to want to click this a lot. Control S, just every so often, just save the video, and then so you don't lose progress if the program crashes. And then Control Z is to undo. Control Shift Z to redo. If you accidentally undo something, you can do Control Shift Z to redo it. The regular tool for navigating through the timeline is a mouse, and then there is the blade tool. These are the two tools that we will be using for editing this the most. And basically, you just use the mouse tool to drag clips around, trim the edges, and use that to left click, right click, and all that stuff on the clips. And then there's the blade tool. The blade tool is if you want to click and split the clip wherever you click. So basically, you just click it and you split the clip. These two things can be toggled with A and B. So A is for the regular mode, and then B is for the blade tool. You can also access them by clicking the icons at the top. So whenever you see me make a cut, that is usually with the blade tool. I never use any of the other tools because I don't know what they do. And I never have found the reason to know what they do. So it just works best for me to use it as the blade tool and the regular mouse tool for my videos. So the first thing I want to do after I take a song into my editing software is I actually go through and mark the places where I want there to be a beat. Now, you can do this by going into the tab where there's media, right-clicking, go to import, bring down, you go through your files, drag in a clip that you want to bring in, and then let's just say it's just the audio track. You put that in the audio section. Then, after you do that, you just go through and you have the audio. You want to make sure that it's at the very beginning of the video to the certain point where you want it to end. And I trimmed it just a bit because it's like a 3-minute song. This had a 1-minute intro for this video, so that's all we're gonna have for that. So I go through and create markers. These little blue things are called markers, and they're like guidelines for me when I want to place clips into the track. So in order to place a marker, you just press M. So as you're going through the song, whenever you want there to be a hard cut, press M. So like boop. Whenever there's like a beat or something, I personally like to mix my footage with the music, so that's what I do with markers. Well, after you go through your timeline pressing M wherever you want to place a marker where the cuts will be, then you play through it again, just make sure that it flows well, and then you take your clips. It's a really good thing to do in Davinci is organizing your footage. So in the media tab on the far left of the page, you can create bins. Right clicking, going down, click add bin, and you name it video, make another bin, name it audio, and then every time you want to add a video clip, you go into the video bin and add it in there. That way you have an organized area in order to get all your clips where you want them to be. For the audio thing, we're going to get into sound design and stuff like that later. It's optional, but I would like to use that to spice up my videos, but you can also put the music track in the audio bin. So now that you have the audio on the audio side of the timeline and the markings down, you can get started on editing. So you just choose a clip that you want to go in the first section, and for me, I was going to do a voiceover, so the first clip could be longer. It just depends on the song you're using. I will leave the link to the song I used in the description. It had a download link in the link on that video. It was on YouTube, so you could use that song, but you could use really any song for this technique. You edit how you want it to be edited. These are just my techniques. So you take a clip, you put it in that area and you put it in the timeline. You take a clip, you drag it to the timeline, and then if you have a drone, if you try to play it back and it's a little bit laggy, what you're gonna want to do is go right click, go up to generate optimized media, and then it will generate an optimized media where it will be like, yeah, you can use this without having any issues. Now, if it's still laggy after you generate optimized media, what you're gonna have to do is go into the settings tab and then go all the way down to the optimized media. There are two tabs. You take them both down to, I believe it's DRSQ for both of those, and then I'll have the stuff up on the screen here, or here, I don't know where it's going to be, but you choose those values and there's a thing with a 5, you set it to 1, and then you click save, and those things will fit. Also, another thing for this video, I shot in 16:9, which is the normal aspect ratio for shooting, but I also, for this edit, I changed it so it's a widescreen aspect ratio. I will have the specific dimensions I used for this up in the corner, up on the screen, but basically I set these in the very top. There's a section where you can set the dimensions of it, and basically what I'm going to do with all of the clips is I'm going to animate them so they can go up and go down. That way, it'll have a more interesting feel and you can create more dynamic shots. After you change the settings to whatever you want, you can shoot in whatever frame rate you want, but it's best to put it in the frame rate that you shot in. I shot in 4K 60, however I'm downscaling it to 1080p 24 frames per second, or 23.976, which is 24 for this video. And just because that's a lot of data if I shoot 4K 60 and then upscale this to 4K 60, so I'm just gonna keep it at 1080p 24 for me. And those are the basic video settings. But then we go down back to the timeline and you start putting clips in. So basically you just choose the clips. I like to go one at a time and put them into the spots where I selected. There's the markings, where those little blue things are, you put it in between and you trim the ends so they go in each and every place you want them to go. Now if you have just placed all the clips and the markers and you think it looks good, and it's good with the music and you like the way it syncs up, or just the way it looks so far, then you can export it just like that. There's the tab in the bottom, it's the deliver tab, you just click that and export it out. Nice and easy. However, if you wish to take things a bit further, you can also add animations to your things. So I'm going to go through clip by clip on how you can essentially add animations and stuff like the twisting, the zooming in, and stuff like that can really amplify your footage, as well as speed ramps I have and color grading that can take your clips to the next level. So let's get into that. Okay, so for the first shot, it's just a simple shot where I have the drone and I'm panning, right? I'm panning to the left. So what I did was I went into the top right. If you don't see this tab, you can go to the inspector and then turn it on by clicking on inspector, and then this drop down menu should appear. basically the inspector tab is where you can set keyframes. And the keyframes I set for this first clip were I set the, well, first of all, if you're editing in a widescreen aspect ratio, you're going to have to zoom the clips in so they match. So you will lose a bit of top and bottom space on the clip when you zoom in, but generally it's not a big deal. For this, for the specific dimensions I was using for this video, in order to get fully zoomed in without any black bars on the edges, I had to go 1.33x. You can just type that in the zoom thing, and then once you click enter, it'll automatically zoom into that. You can also drag it to experiment where you want it to be. But after that, right down from where the zoom thing is, there's the position. There's position X, which is side to side, and then there's position Y, which is up and down. So what I did was I set position Y. So that way, since I have this extra room on top of where the actual video is, which is, the video is essentially cutting off the top and bottom, which is a widescreen aspect ratio as seen in many movies and stuff, because our eyes see more stuff horizontally than vertically. I thought it would be a cool way to shoot like that, and a lot of people do it, so that's what I do. And I've already said that. But basically, go to the start of the video with the little dragger thing, all the way to the start of the clip, and click the keyframe thing. There's a little, like, diamond piece, and you click that, and it becomes red. That means that you have started a keyframe. Then you take the position Y, you drag it in either direction. If you want it to go from up to down, and you just drag it which way you want it to go. I started down and going up as the clip was going through. So it creates like, it makes it look like you're moving the gimbal up, even though you're not. Because in that clip I had the gimbal static set at 90 degrees, but since it's 4K I can zoom in and do this. If you're shooting 1080p, it's obviously not the greatest idea to do this. However, I was shooting 4K, I always do, so that's why I'm doing this. And it also creates a more interesting effect. It's very subtle at some times, but you go to the beginning, you set it down to a certain amount, probably to the minimum you can go without seeing a black bar on the bottom, and then you go to the end of the clip and bring that number up, so you see the clip slide up. And then you go back to the beginning, and you should see a keyframe, and then the keyframes will play out automatically. As long as you didn't set them in the middle, it'll basically be a gradual, like, down to up kind of thing that looks very, very subtle, but you can also see it at the same time. And although the viewer can't typically see it at first glance, it's still apparent and they still notice it. It makes it feel a bit more complete. So for the next shot, I also did the same thing with that the next shot, however it was reversed. So I started up high, and I did the same exact thing with the keyframes, for the Y position, starting up high, bringing it down low. Now that process can be repeated for the rest of these clips, but basically what I'm doing for this specific audio track that I used, I am making a build-up. So there's also two different types of like beats in it. As you could probably tell if you watched the beginning of the video, it's slower at first, which is a more cinematic look, and then towards the end of the video it speeds up, which is still can be considered cinematic, but it's a lot more fast-paced. And that's two different styles blended together into one video. So there's a build-up, and then you hit that moment, and then boom, you get the waterfall shots, which are awesome, and we're gonna get to those in a few minutes here. So this shot was starting up and bringing it down with the keyframes. So basically you still do the keyframes, but the positioning is opposite. This is just how I did it for this clip. You can do it however you want, but first clip was moving up, next clip was moving down, because at first you see the landscape of that river, and as I turn the drone, I have it make it look like it's looking down to where that car is going down the road. So after that, I just kept doing that for the next few clips. The clip after that, okay, so the next clip is a clip going parallel with that little road and the stream or river on the bottom of that little canyon, and it's just going forward. But the original shot was super slow, and so since I have the ability to animate, I thought, why not make it appear as if it's going faster than it really is? So I did the same keyframe movement, but I went from bottom to top. So it's like, even though the clip was going very slowly forward, I made it appear as if it were going faster. So it's like original versus the end result. So I'd say it was a significant improvement, and I liked it a lot. However, it just depends on what you want to do. If you want to go even slower, you don't have to do these keyframe animations, but it adds a lot to your video. So it's just a very nice, smooth, subtle. It still looks like you're just going faster, but it's also a way to emulate speed. And you can, once you get more advanced with keyframes and you learn them a bit more, you can also do stuff with like making, as you'll get to the end of the video, you'll see I do some things that are probably not the best to do if you're a beginner, but it's things that you can do. They're a bit more advanced, but they're also pretty cool things that you can do with editing. The next shot, actually, I think it would be, I've completely forgot to, so next we're going to do some color grading for the clips. I shot all of these in log. If you don't want to color grade your footage and you think it looks just fine out of camera, feel free to just wait until the next part comes along. This is only like 2 seconds. Just for speed, usually I don't use lookup tables, I create my own custom ones, but this is actually a lookup table from the April montage, which comes out next week. So you all are getting a sneak peek of what it looks like. But yeah, I just dragged that into there and added some contrast and lowered the shadows a bit, raised the highlights if I needed to, and that basically I balanced it out. I have a full video detailing how I color grade and take footage from log shots to make it look normal, or just to get them to where I want them to be. I will link that up there in the corner. Basically, you're just adding contrast and then manipulating the colors afterwards. You don't have to do this, but that's basically what it is. Alright, so back to the rest of the video now. So the next shot is a parallax effect of me flying my drone over a little cluster of trees, and it was originally looking down on them, and as I went up, it was doing like this, and the trees were here. So it's like, whoop. Right, so that was an already pretty good shot. You don't have to add anything to it if you took a shot like that. However, in order to make it a bit more interesting, the beginning of the clip, it started at all the way zoomed out without black bars. Obviously, if you're editing in a wide aspect ratio, you want to make sure you zoom in to the point where you don't see black bars anymore on the sides. But now, I started at 1.33 magnification. At the beginning of the clip, you set a keyframe with the diamond thing, and then you go to the end of the clip and you zoom in all the way. Now you probably notice when you zoom in all the way, it doesn't look right because the focus of the shot, like depending on the shot, the original, I had to move the x-axis, which when you're zoomed into 2, you go all the way to 2, then you're zooming in from 4K going into 1080p, which is just fine. Still really high quality, especially coming off of the Evo. If you have something like a Mavic Air, Mavic Pro, Mavic 2 Pro, your drones are all going to be just fine if you zoom in a bit. It doesn't hurt. So basically you're zooming in, dolly zoom. It's essentially a dolly zoom. So you're going around and it appears as if the trees are coming closer to you, although you're actually going further away. That's what I was doing in this shot. And I went to the beginning of the clip, I set keyframes for the y-axis and the x-axis. I didn't do anything to them at the beginning because they were fine at the beginning, but when I go to the end of the clip, I just adjust those to where I want them to be, and then I think, okay, does the composition of this clip look right? And I go back to the beginning and I play the clip through one more time, and it just slowly follows in and gets to where I want it to be. So it's like, you can use that if you're zooming in. You don't have to zoom straight into the center of the clip. Like, you could zoom into the side of the clip, you could zoom into the corner, because 4K is essentially 4 1080p HD clips on top of each other. So you could zoom into anywhere inside of that like box. You don't just have to go into the middle. So that's essentially what I was doing. I was like zooming into the part where it looks good, just for the composition, because you don't want to zoom in on like a field. Like, I know there's like part of a field in the corners, and then the actual cluster of trees is in the center. So I try to zoom in a bit towards the bottom right corner, I believe. So that was how I did that shot. And then the next one was a bit more intricate because I added a rotation effect to it. For the next clip, I dragged it in, obviously cut it down to where the markers were, and then I did a dolly zoom effect again. So I started at the base zoom, which is 1.33 magnification for the aspect ratio that I'm editing in, and then from there I went to the end of the clip, zoomed into 2, so I went from 1.33 magnification all the way to 2. So I was going from 4K, zooming into 1080p. And obviously, as you could probably tell, I'm going to have it up on the screen. When you do that, the bridge in that shot was not in frame. So I went back to the beginning of the clip, created a keyframe for the y-axis and the x-axis. When you click the one for the y-axis, it also does it for the x-axis because they're considered two in the same. I dragged it all the way up to the top though, just so I could have the bridge in there for the entire shot, although it wasn't the top of the shot. It's not a big deal. So I started there and then went to the end of the clip and zoomed in. It was already zoomed in because I set the keyframe, so it does like a dolly zoom thing. Oh, actually, wait, no, that wasn't a dolly zoom because it's just zooming in. I wasn't going backwards and zooming in. So it's just it's a regular zoom, and once you get to the end of the clip, I adjusted it so the bridge was in the exact center of the frame, so you just adjust the Y and the X since you're zoomed in a bit, and I made it so it was like centered. Now, I thought I could do like a cool effect where I could also make it rotate. Since the bridge, when I zoomed in all the way to 2, wasn't exactly where I wanted it to be. I think it was slightly crooked, so I was like, hey, might as well make a cool effect. So I go back to the beginning, turn on the keyframe for the rotation, and set it to go one way. You have this slider. So you can, if you mess around with it, you can see that the clip rotates when you do it. Also, if you mess up with anything, you can just do Control-Z, and that will get rid of the thing that you did. And also, throughout this video, Control-S, 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 click Save all the time. I have tendencies to just click Save every 5 seconds, so that's how it works for me. That's my workflow, because I have had crashes before and those aren't fun and you don't want to lose all your work. So remember to click Save all the time. Control-S, Control-S. Anyways, so I set this keyframe from the beginning of the clip, rotate it one way to the end of the clip, rotate it to where I want it to be, so you set 2 points on the beginning and the end. So then you have this nice rotation effect, and it looks pretty cool. So that's why I have it for that clip. And then the next clip, so the next clip was actually a speed ramp. This is a bit complicated, however, I do have a full tutorial on more in-depth stuff on speed ramps, but this is a basic one, so I will teach you how to do that right here. Basically, I did the clip as I originally wanted to, but I didn't cut it down to the second marker. Because it's where the beat drops, so I wanted to have the rest of the clip. I used the slider once I zoomed into 1.33x to get rid of the black bars on the sides. I used the slider to adjust it so the very bottom of the waterfall was just in the frame. Then after that, I went to the point where I wanted the speed ramp to start, which is right in line with the music where it goes starts. I know that sounds a little bit stupid, but that beat drop starts. I go there and I right click, I go to retime controls. This is how you do a speed ramp. You click retime controls, this little thing will pop up on the clip, and then you go to where you want the beat drop to start, and you click on that little drop down menu and you click add speed point. Then after that, add speed point, then you go to the point where you want the speed ramp to stop. So for this case, I want the speed ramp to be the drone looking up at the waterfall. So it starts like looking down, straight down at the river, and then it ends looking straight up at the waterfall. So I wanted the speed ramp to the point where it would be straight up looking at the water. So what I did was immediately went to the point where it was looking straight up at the waterfall, clicked again, add speed point. Now you have 2 lines on it. So you take the one on the far right and you drag that all the way over to where the beat, you want it to end the speed ramp. So now you have a boop, like a jump. And you could use that if you like it that way, you can use it that way. That's the speed ramp. But you can also smooth out the edges. So what you're gonna do is right click, go to retime curve. Retime curve, this drop down menu will pop up below the clip, and all you need to do is go into there. There's this red thing where it should be like it's a red line with 2 points on it. Those are the keyframes. You select the red clip, the first dot, and you go up to where there's this little icon. This is the curve. So you change it from a start, like a really fast jump, and you make it more blended. So you blend it a little bit and then you go to the top one. Personally, I felt like it would be more appropriate to blend the top one a bit more because the beat drop is very abrupt, but the fade off is a bit more smooth. So you can take it and then speed ramp it, and then once you get to the top, you take that, you select that one and you feather that one out, by dragging that little clip once you select the Bezier option, which is right up at the top. So basically, after you do that, you have your speed ramp. So this can be repeated for many shots, but once again, after you do that, color grade, whatever the heck you want to do. You can also do the rescaling thing. Since the waterfall is a bit tall, I did the keyframes to scale it in between right where I want it to be for the end of the shot, and at the end of the shot, I did another speed ramp. Basically, I went to the end of the shot where the because the clip keeps going. I made it so it kept going. I didn't stop it at the end of the blue marker, and there still was leftover clip for me. So I went to the thing, I clicked add speed point where I wanted the speed ramp, the final thing to end, and then I went to the very end of the clip. You can drag it from the end. There's a little line, and you take that and you drag it to where you want the clip to end, and it will just speed ramp the ending. Now, once I did that, I did the I went back down into the drop down menu and did the curve again. Unless you close out the curve with that little button, the curve should still be there. So after you do that, now you have another speed ramp, a color fade, just drag it on there. It's called dip to color. I made it dip to white so it looks like it flashes. That was essentially that for that first beat drop clip, and there are a few more after that, so let's go through those next. So for the next beat drop section, there's like a bump, bump, bump. I wanted there to be 3 specific cuts, so once I put that clip into the timeline, when I marked it out, I marked out those 3 cuts on the thing. So basically I took a cut, I dragged the clip over a bit, so it makes it look like it's jumping with the beat. So it's like bump, bump, bump. Basically, as you can do, you just make a cut with the blade tool, drag the thing, move it over, make a cut, drag it over. So this way you can like cut to the music. So it's like bum, bum, bum. It's a bit of it. It's not that hard to do, but you just got to make sure you time it just right with the beat. You can zoom in on the thing and make sure that you can, the waves on the audio, you can make it so it's like specifically timed with that. And if for some reason the little like dragger thing doesn't let you go exactly on the beat, it's fine to go just a bit before, just a bit after. Usually a bit before is fine, and a bit after is fine as well. But for these little jump cuts, it's fine. It was just in sync with the music, luckily for me, so that was pretty good. It's not that hard to do. So it's duh, 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 and then we have another speed ramp. So we take that, we do the same exact thing as we did before. We go right click, retime controls, do the speed ramp. You take the starting position, go to the end position, and then you just drag that over. So now you have the shot where I'm flying by that tree and then looking down at the waterfall. So it's like, so now that we have that next shot where I go down, basically it's speed ramping from the part where I look at the tree and looking down at the thing. So it's nice and fast. It's like, boop. And you can go down to the retime curve as well. Right click, go up to retime curve, drop that menu down, and then go through the section there. You could do that as well to, like, you know, smooth out the speed ramp a bit. And then for the rest of the clip, it was fine. I didn't do a speed ramp at the end because I didn't have enough room on the clip. Now what I did for this shot was slow motion. Actually, I did it on the last shot too. You can, I completely forgot to say this, you can slow it down too. So you can do slow motion speed ramps too, which are the exact opposite. So you just, instead of speeding it up, you drag it out. So it, lowest you want to go if you're shooting 60 frames per second, it depends on the timeline you're using it in. But usually I either have a 30 frames per second timeline, 60 frames per second timeline, or a 24 frames per second timeline. And if I'm shooting 60, I don't really want to do slow motion unless I'm shooting 120 frames per second and slowing that down to 60 by going 50%. Or I could do 60 frames per second. In this 24 frames per second timeline, I can slow it down all the way to 40. So I just dragged out that point on the very end until that number said 40%. And then you have that nice smooth slow motion effect of the waterfall. And you can do that too. You can also at the end speed it up, but I didn't have enough room on this clip because the clip was very short. I just dragged the dip to white color thing again and made it look like it was flashing at the end. So, I mean, these are very fast-paced transitions. Sometimes they're a little bit intricate to work through. You absolutely do not have to do this. This is like This is a bit more of an advanced technique. I'm trying to explain it my best, but I'm not. I hope this is helpful. Honestly, I just do the same thing over and over again for these 3 speed ramp sections, but the predecessor to the speed ramp, like the build up, is different for this next one. So the next shot is me looking at the waterfall with the drone, and I'm going backwards, but I do the same thing with the cut. So it's like boom, pop, pop, pop. It's like cutting again, like the jump cuts before, except for each jump cut, instead of actually jump cutting, I don't drag the clip. I just cut it into the places where I want. So I want the first clip to be 1.33 zoom. So I'm doing a zoom cut. So like instead of zooming in smoothly, I'm doing like rapid, like, okay, you zoomed in here, zoomed in faster for the next one. There's no flow between it. It just jumps to the next zoom level. That's what I'm doing. So I don't have to trim the clip, so there's no jump cuts. The clip isn't moving forward. It's just going regular speed, but I'm breaking it up into segments. So for each segment, it gets a bit more zoomed in. I think I went all the way to 200% zoomed into 2 on the zoom scale. And so I was like, whoop. So I did that for each one. So it's like zoom in, a bit in, and then out, out, out. And then another speed ramp. Now the zoom cut in thing is, it's a bit of an experimental technique. It is a little rapid. It can be a bit off guard at sometimes for some people. And I was experimenting with this in the April montage for the Autel Evo, and the next effect that we're going to go over is also being experimented with that in there. However, you don't need to do this. This is advanced. This is just me trying to explain it my best. You don't have to do the speed ramps. I mean, honestly, just jump cutting regular cuts are just fine on the beat. Even if you don't want to go on the beat, you know, that's fine. It's all good. I'm trying to make this as, I have a hard time explaining these things sometimes. But next, I did the speed ramp again. It's the same process for the other ones. It was the same exact process as the first speed ramp. Speed ramp to the point where I want it to be at, and then at the end, speed ramp again, take the color, dip to color transition, put it on the, drag it there, put it on the end of the clip, and then make it so it dips to white like a flash. The next one is a bit different. It's it was supposed to be a hyperlapse. It didn't actually go so it was a bit shaky, but I feel like I used it to my advantage. So the next clip is jump cuts again, but instead of jumping, it's just cutting. And each little cut, I go into the tab, and you can flip the image, so it's like whoop, or you can flip the image vertically. You can flip it vertically or horizontally. So I did a bunch of like flip horizontally, vertically. So instead of doing the zooming for each clip, I just did the like the flip, 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 flip until it just, for that, on the beat, for that. This can be a bit jarring depending on who's watching the video, what type of video you're going for. It really depends if you want to use this effect or not. I just used it because I thought it was fun, and I thought it went well with the music, and you're going to see that effect in the April montage a lot. So yeah, the April montage is going to be very experimental, and I hope you enjoy it, but you don't have to enjoy it. Anyways, subscribe if you want to see it, because a lot of you are not subscribed, please. Okay, anyways, so that, I sped the whole clip up so it's like a hyperlapse, and it slowly ends the hyperlapse in the end. But I also did a rapid zoom. So instead of doing a zoom transition from the beginning to the end, I went to the middle of the clip and added a keyframe. Then I went a bit forward and added another keyframe, and at the second keyframe I zoomed in to 2, to a scale of 2. So I zoomed from 1 to 2. I go whoop, so I zoomed in, and that just makes it look like it was like a zoom in effect, and that's basically all I did there. So yeah, that's the main timeline. Obviously, the beat drop sections were a little advanced. By no means do you have to do that, but just that is what I was doing. Those are a bit more advanced techniques. If you can get those done and you can do those, that's amazing. Also, if you're going to if you're going to edit this, be sure to drop your edits in the comment section below. I would like to see them. And don't worry if it looks bad to you. Don't worry. If this is your first time doing stuff like this, I would not worry about it at all. It only gets better from here. If you want encouragement, go back and look at my old videos. Those are horrible. And this is still not my peak. You only get better in terms of editing, and I still don't think I'm at the best at where I could be. Like, there's always room for improvement. So yeah, it's a learning process. Don't worry about if your video looks bad or not. It's just the practice that matters. So the next section we're gonna go into is sound design. So this is completely optional, but I like to use it in my videos. And only recently, though, I have been using it a lot more. Since drones don't have microphones on them for obvious reasons, you don't want to hear loud propellers going all over the place. You don't want to hear loud propellers, so the drones don't have microphones on them. But basically, I just add the sound effects in post. So I get my sound effects from Storyblocks. No, this video is not sponsored. Storyblocks, if you want to sponsor me, please, maybe. I don't know if you sponsor small channels like me, but Storyblocks, if you're watching this, I need money so I can buy a new camera. Sponsor me. Anyways, Storyblocks, my school system has access to it. You don't have to use Storyblocks. They have music on there, they have stock footage, they have audio and sound effects. I used a bunch of their sound effects. I just downloaded them on there, dragged them into the audio bin. See, organization helps in the long term, because now I have all my audio tracks where I want them to be, and I can just drag them in where I want them to be. So essentially, I got like a wind track, like the sound of the wind blowing, water track, like waterfall and like water flowing in a stream. I got some whoosh tracks just for like to show motion. And then I also got a car track, like the sound of a car engine. So now as we go through the video, you can see that these effects are not like very prominent in the video, but they help build the story. So at the very beginning, I dragged in the wind audio effect because in the original song, I did not turn down the audio at the beginning. That's just how it was at the beginning. So where I was going to do the voiceover, I just put in that wind to make it look like it was actually windy when I was filming, and it was kind of windy. So now you just get that feeling that you're up in the air, it's windy, you're in like this really nice location in New York. So you want to build an environment with the sounds you're using. So I had added that wind effect. Since there were no cars going on the roads there, I didn't add any sounds for that. For the next shot with that car though, I added a car, like the car engine sound effect. On the bottom, there's multiple layers for the audio effects. Put the car effect on there, but since the car goes from right to left across the screen, I decided to try something a bit interesting. Basically, you go up into you click on the audio clip. In the inspector tab, there is something called pan. And you can keyframe it. So I went to the very beginning of the audio track, clicked on the keyframe, and dragged the pan all the way, not all the way, but most of the way to the right. That way, basically it's like sound. If you pan it to the right, you hear it on the right side of your headphones or on the right side of your speaker. And you don't hear it on the left side. If it's in the middle, you hear it in both. But basically what I did is I started here, and I went to the end of the clip where the car was driving across on the other side, and the car ends up over here. So now I dragged the sound thing at the very end over there. So now the sound, if you're wearing headphones or if you have nice speakers, or if you're watching on your phone, I think you can hear it if you have like the newer phones with dual speakers or whatever. And it just goes like, you can hear it going around. So it's about building immersion in your sound effects. That's what I like to do with my audio effects. Obviously, you don't have to use Storyblocks. There are tons of other places you can get sound effects. There's also, you can search them up on YouTube, and a lot of the videos that have sound effects in them, they have download links in them. That's what I used to use. That's what I used to use. That sounds so weird. Used to use. Yeah, that's what I used to use before I found out that my school system has access to Storyblocks. So that's basically how I got those sound effects. Anyways, after that, I also had the water track in the background. Since I lowered the volume. You can change the volume in the inspector tab. You can also do like dynamic stuff, or like if you're going closer to something, like I did in the shot with the bridge, I made it so, I think I made it so the audio was quieter in the beginning and keyframed it so it goes up as the clip goes on. That is, it's like that, kind of. So yeah, so it's like quiet to loud, and you can do build-ups, you can do stuff like that. And then in between the clip where the clip with the car and the next clip with the road and the water, I just kept the water sound effects, but I added a slight whoosh sound effect. You don't want to overdo the whoosh sound effects. I see people overdoing, like, on every single shot they overdo the whoosh sound effect, and I don't like it. When people overdo it, you have to use it to the right extent, and this one was very subtle. It's like, and you can barely hear it, but you hear it there. Although you might not consciously know it, it helps drive the build-up of this sequence to the part where the beat drops. So after that, I added water sound effects, tree rustling sound effects. You can just drag these in, whoosh sound effects and stuff like that. You just, when you see a clip that has sound effects needed for them, you just drag the sound effect under, trim it, and then if you want to make it blend more, you can do the audio transitions where it automatically, you drag and drop those so it automatically builds up the audio and fades it out, fades in and fades it out at the beginning and end of the clips. So you can do that by dragging those there. And then you just build it out for the rest of the timeline. Waterfall sound effects, wood creak sound, I don't think I used a wood creak sound effect, but like the trees rustling, all that stuff, whoosh sound effects and stuff like that. You build it out on the bottom of the clip, and then once you think it's satisfactory, you don't even have to do sound design, but I like to do it personally. And then once you do that, you have your video. Hopefully this video is not too terribly long, but I hope it helped you to learn a bit more about the technique of editing. Now obviously these techniques can be applied to other editing softwares, but it is a good, Davinci Resolve is free, so you can get that really easily and learn to use it. It has a steep learning curve, but hopefully this helped explain it a bit. And obviously, you're probably not going to be perfect on your first try. I still mess up a lot. There's a lot of missed opportunities in a lot of my edits, and I try things that don't always work. Yeah, I hope that this video was helpful, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And until next time, y'all, do drop a like and subscribe. And if you need any help with video editing, like advanced stuff or other stuff, if you're having troubles with some things, do not hesitate to like contact me on Instagram or Facebook. My direct messages are always open. Email me, whatever you heck you want to do. Leave a comment. If you need help, I'm here to help. Obviously I don't have much to do during this time, so yeah. I'll probably spend all week working on this video since I filmed a ton. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy this, and stay creative, my friends. And I'll see you all in the next video. Like and subscribe, please, so I can be monetized and buy a new camera. Peace.